Hi, I'm Dave, and you're listening to A Conversation with Angie and Mike, a podcast from Somewhere House, Somerset. Each episode, we meet people with inspiring stories from local community groups to fascinating organisations and explore how mental health has shaped their journeys. Somewhere House, Somerset is a small charity supporting people across Sedgemoor with counselling, group sessions and community activities. To find out more or get involved, visit our website or email info@somewherehousesomerset.org. Let's get into today's conversation.
In this conversation, Mike Gelder shares his extensive background in banking and community service, highlighting his role as a lay minister and his involvement in various charitable projects. He discusses the challenges faced in the banking industry, the impact of church scandals on faith, and the importance of building trust within communities. Mike emphasizes the value of self-sufficiency in charity work and reflects on the significance of volunteering and giving back. The conversation also touches on personal experiences with marriage and relationships, culminating in a discussion about legacy and the lasting impact one can have on others.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning to you, Mike.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning on our lovely podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Mike Gelder. I live in Wedmore. I've worked in my working life. I worked all the way around the country, and in recent years in Wedmore, I'm probably best known as being a reader or lay minister in St Mary's Church in Wedmore, where I've preached many sermons and taken quite a lot of funerals, etc. And I've been very involved with Rotary here in the Mendip Valley.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. I didn't know you worked in the church. I had no idea of that.
They told me you were beyond conversion, so I never spoke to you.
I love that story.
No, seriously, no. I was a lay minister in the church for over 50 years.
Really?
And preached over 2,000 sermons and led many services, yeah.
Wow.
That's just alongside my proper job.
And what was your proper job?
Well, I started off as a young man having disappointed myself in my A-level results. And so I rebounded into the bank, and I ended up by being the change management and process management director for the entire bank, which involved, my last job was really merging Lloyds and TSB.
Wow.
Right.
And getting all the benefits out of it. So that was my last job. But in between that, I had many other interesting jobs which people would not regard normally as being straightforward banking. I ran training at one stage, and that's a sideline. I've been an area director, a branch manager of a big branch, had lots of interesting customers and people I've met over the years, and then get involved at a higher level in as for a little while I was customer services director, and then when we did actually provide customer service.
Yeah, you're right there. I'm glad you said that. I agree.
And then after that it was for a little while operations director, and then when the merger came along with TSB, I became the, as I said, change management director, trying to get all the savings out of the organisation.
Wow.
Including closing branches, including, dare I say, the branch of Lloyds in Wedmore, which was quite interesting. Of course, I didn't choose them all. I had a team was working for me on all of this. I just had to sign the piece of paper. And you can't, on individual whim, just say, oh, I live in Wedmore, therefore I'm not going to close that. The more dangerous one was when I closed the branch which my father used. That did not go down too well, but we made other arrangements with the post office, and he was happy at the end of the day.
Why have they closed them all?
Why have they?
I mean, I was having a conversation with Dave in the car yesterday, and it's like, I do not understand that.
Well, it's actually quite simple. And I've been retired, been 83, 84. I've been retired nearly 25 years.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about what we were going to do then, and it's become more acute in recent years because the American banks, particularly Chase Bank, have come in, and they provide everything they do electronically.
Of course.
They don't have any branch network at all, and branch networks are very costly to operate. And therefore, they were picking up what young people want, people in their teens and 20s. they were picking up people of that age group who wanted to do everything electronically on their iPad or on their, predominantly on their phone.
Yeah.
And the major banks couldn't compete with that, having to provide all that infrastructure and also maintain a very expensive branch network and all the staff involved alongside it. So basically, you've now got, I imagine, I'm only guessing from people I talk to, a somewhat disgruntled group of more elderly people and youngsters who are very happy to join the clearing banks who are providing this more sophisticated electronic means. So at the end of the day, it's all about what you can afford to provide for a customer for free, by and large, and through electronic means. I think they've gone too far. I think they've closed too, personally, I wouldn't have closed all the branches that they have, but it was very necessary to close some.
Oh, I agree. And cost effective to do that, but to close them all is absolutely, virtually all of them is. I mean, for us to get to a bank nowadays, where we live in our community, it take me 40 minutes
At least.
And which is crazy.
And then you've got to park.
Yeah, and then you've got to park,
Yes.
and you got the cost of the petrol, you got the cost of the parking, you got the cost of your time.
Oh, it's a tough life you lead, isn't it?
It is, especially when you're running a company as well. It's quite hard.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, you were saying about the post office. The post office has been a lifesaver for our business because we have a client account and we can't have a card for a client account. You've got to transfer the money into the business account, and then you draw it out of the business. And Victoria, my daughter's got a really good relationship with her local post office, and they are absolutely fantastic. But without them, we wouldn't be able to provide the service that we do.
No, it just so happened that I don't want to spend all the time talking about banking because I'm a long way from it now. But at the time, there were two things happening. One, Lloyds and TSB were merging, and there were difficulties with then government not wanting us to reduce the size of the branch network, and they were standing in the way of the merger. But at the same time as banks generally were wanting to close their branches, the post offices were struggling to keep them open. And I met at a business meeting the chief executive of the post office, and we got talking about our individual problems. And we said, well, you're building the notorious system. We're building a new post office computer system. If your system could talk to our system, then we'd be able to do withdrawals for your customers in our branches and by another more cumbersome method, enable them to pay in. And so that's what ultimately happened. The government were very happy with that solution, and the merger went through happily.
Hallelujah.
Yes. So it was a very interesting period, yeah.
Did you find your career kind of had a good balance with your relationship in the community? Did it help with your church work and stuff like that?
I wouldn't have said my career helped with my church work. You could say it was the other way round, of course, because you try to take, as a Christian, you try to take ethical decisions and decisions that are people-friendly rather than wholly cost-based decisions, and trying to influence it that way. I drew a lot from what I experienced talking to my colleagues in the bank and to customers, that I could bring, in apostrophes, real life into sermons in the church, rather than just talk theoretically or about what the Bible was saying, etc. But you could apply it to what you'd actually experienced in real life. That was a positive benefit. I also, from a business point of view, at a fairly young age, I was introduced to, when I first got my first managerial appointment when I was about 27, 28, I was introduced to Round Table because that was seen by the bank to be very useful in meeting people in the business community. Yeah. And so I joined Round Table, and that's then opened the door into lots of the bits of charity work that I've been involved with over the years. And then from Round Table, when I got long in the tooth at 40, then I moved over to Rotary and did quite a lot in various, as I moved around with my career, various community projects in Rotary. And then after I've retired, I've done a lot more charity projects because I've had more time. But it has led to quite a busy life.
Yeah. So when did you sneak in the bit of training to become a lay minister?
Well, just when we'd had 3 children inside 4 years, and that's a serious answer. And so then you had to pass, in those days, you had to pass exams to become a lay minister in the church, which I just crammed in late night when the children were asleep, hopefully, and managed to pass those, and then was licensed originally in April 1972 in Sea Mills in Bristol, where we were then living. And after that, I've been a minister in lots of dioceses and parishes that I've moved around the country, and worked for lots of interesting vicars as well, some of whom have provided more than a little interest in that. Unfortunately, I didn't work with him alongside him, but I used to go and preach in his church. He was later discovered quite a serious paedophile. And I had 2 very alcoholic vicars where you didn't know what they were going to come out with or what you were going to do when you arrived at the church. And it was one of them in particular who would just, when it came to a part of the service he hadn't prepared for, which sometimes was all of it, he would point at me whilst, so it's your turn to do the prayers, your turn to do the, all on pointing and no preparation whatsoever. So so I've met some very interesting people and through the church, and it has been an important part of my life.
Yeah.
I always say that I've served God and mammon at the same time.
It's just coming back to what you said a few moments ago about the association with paedophiles within the church. It's been quite controversial, hasn't it? And I wonder how that's impacted on somebody who, I'm assuming you're not a paedophile. I kind of know you slightly, but do you know what I'm saying? How does that impact on you as being part of an organisation that have experienced that? It must have been quite tough.
It's been very disappointing and tough in respect of the impact on people they've been involved with. I won't go into the details of where this particular one took place. It's not that far from here. But the impact it had on his whole family and on the boys he influenced was quite dramatic for them in later life, because the repercussions showed up in their in those people's actions in their later life. Not to say they became paedophiles, but their sexuality was troubled and their careers were affected by it. And it was difficult when first suspected it, along with somebody else, the curate. We mentioned it to the vicar concerned, and he said, "Oh no, the boys love it, and the family love the boys coming to stop with me at the weekend, etc." And we then spoke to the parents, and they said, "Oh yes, the boys love going to X and stopping the weekend." And then it blew up out of one of the health emergencies that the vicar concerned sought big public exposure because he loved the media and was seen on television, and somebody watching it up in Lancashire said, "He's the man who abused me." So that part, but you can't let it affect your own personal faith. In whatever sphere of life you're in, there are going to be bad coins, and you've got to pursue and propagate what you think to be the right aspect of your faith. That's all really I would say on that, I think.
And I think I completely concur with you, because we're all part of a human race, aren't we? And it just doesn't make us all the same. We are all different, and we bring different aspects and different personalities, and we do different things. It doesn't make us all bad. If somebody makes a mistake like that, it just doesn't. And I think that's it hasn't made the church bad. What it's done is if anything, it's highlighted the fact that they are now doing something that's
They're doing something, but for a long time it did have an adverse effect.
Yeah, of course it does.
Because it gets high profile, and how do you send out a message of love and faith
when that's happening?
Then that's hitting the headlines rather than the message you're hoping to get over and draw people to Christ as a minister.
But I think it's throughout lots of different careers, isn't it? It's like teachers and people like that, they've experienced similar and they've had to deal with that as well. How do you encourage a child to go to school when the parents might think that might be going on at school? And I think sometimes it's just that it's a building a trust again, isn't it? That people will start realising that.
It is, but once broken, trust takes an awful long time. One of the things, I learned when I was involved with, just going back to slightly to the bank, is it's those things that are ingrained in you take a long time to change. Culture, the hardest thing in merging two organizations is merging the culture. You can do all the mechanics, but you can changing the culture. And in the same way, once you've destroyed trust, building that trust up again is challenging, shall we say.
Yeah. No, I completely concur with you. And I mean, I had a very strange background as a child and I had a very strong faith, because if I didn't have my faith, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. And then once again, it's that bit that I went to church as often as I could. I wasn't given that permission by my parents. I did that on my own fruition. I always have done. But interestingly, since my son died, I've really struggled to go back to the church for whatever reason. I went last week for the first time in a long time and felt absolutely comfortable. I was on my own, didn't have anybody with me, and it was really comfortable. But it is that, I think when things do get rocky, in any circumstances, to go back and then start to rebuild that trust is quite difficult. It is quite difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the same one you call trust, and then I would say that's very closely aligned to faith.
Yeah, I agree.
That can that you can get rocked by events in life. You get, like you've experienced, some cruel circumstances for people's health or people close to you dying, and that can shake your faith. But I've always been quite encouraged, I think it's probably the right word. I'm trying to choose the right word there. Encouraged by the fact that many people like you do actually at some stage, perhaps when they're least anticipating it, find that connection again and find their faith again. Some obviously won't, but many do. And I look back on my life, and one of the things that you probably looking back there is you looked at your parents who were not encouraging you. I look back, and key moments in my life have come through people who never known what impact they actually had on me.
Yeah.
No, so stop me if I'm...
No, you're fine.
You're brilliant.
When I was 20, my mother had gotten multiple sclerosis very aggressively, and she was paralyzed within 24 hours up to her breast. She was in hospital for 2 years because they didn't know as much about MS in those days as they do now. And my friend and I used to go and visit her on a Sunday afternoon. I'd stopped going to church at that point in time. I'd gone through the church in childhood. I'd stopped going to church, and we were walking through Southampton on the high street, having gone to the hospital, and we were walking through and 3 young people came up to us and said, "Would you like to join us at the ABC tonight?" And the ABC was a cinema. And I said, what do we want to join you at the cinema for? And they said, "No, it's not the cinema, it's Above Bar Church." And so they got talking to them, and Graham, my friend, and I went into Above Bar Church, and it was an evangelical free church, and I had a wonderful preacher called Leith Samuel, and his topic that night was the problem of suffering. And it spoke to me exactly where I was at that moment, agonizing perhaps over my mother. Father had had a nervous breakdown, and I was an only child. It was, I started working. It was a difficult period. But those 3 people drew me into the church, and from there I went on to do, be involved with the church, and then became a lay minister, etc. But it's all through 3 people who I never, ever saw again. And they will never know the impact, and would never have known the impact they had on my life.
Yeah.
And,
I think that comes, though, doesn't it? Because I've had situations where there's certain people that if they hadn't have met them, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't be able to help the people that I help myself, if you see what I'm saying.
Yes.
And I can think of the group of people. I can't remember their names, who they were or anything, but I remember where I met them, and I thought, wow, if it wasn't for them, I definitely would not be sat here.
Yeah, we all have those milestones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the funny things it is as a lay minister in the church is sometimes you think you've delivered the most awful of sermons, and somebody comes up to you that day or later on and said, that was exactly what I needed to hear. And you think, yes, Lord, right. You're in control. I don't quite realise it. I thought I'd spoken a lot of rubbish, but
it hit somebody.
It somebody.
It helped one, even if it helps one
person.
It's exactly.
That's so important.
This seems to be a bit of a. Yesterday, I went to Hinkley Point Christmas lunch. Is it Hinkley Point?
Yes.
HP. They had a Christmas lunch yesterday, and we went. People from the charity were invited along, and we went along to say thank you for the work that we do in the community. And I was talking to a lady called Mary, who is training to be a chaplain on site, basically.
Right.
And it's all a little bit of a coincidence, because I met somebody else a few days beforehand that was also training to be a chaplain, not at Hinkley Point, but doing it somewhere else. And then you come along today, and it's like, I didn't even know that you were part of the church.
No, that's sad, isn't it? Yeah, really is. Yes.
Yeah, isn't it? I didn't know. And yet you were my neighbour for how many years?
About 10, I think.
Yeah.
Like
Well, we've been here 27 years.
It's 15, actually.
Right.
Yeah, 15.
And I didn't even know that about you.
Yeah, so, these things happen. Incidentally, my daughter, was this Hinkley Point 1 or Hinkley Point 2? The new one or the old
new one? New one.
Because my daughter works there. And of course,
did
she also now leads services in St. Mary's Church here as well, Claire. Yeah, so we've got that connection, but she works, and she's been telling me she's been having the Christmas lunch for about 5 days now.
Yes, that's right. They're sick to death of Christmas lunches. Yeah. But yeah, right, that is a coincidence. But they're absolutely brilliant, because I had, Richard rang me to come on the podcast. He couldn't come today, but he said, I'll come in January. So I thought, that was funny, because it was Richard that did our son's funeral.
Right, yes.
And also married our son. So it was...
Oh, really?
Right. Marriage, yeah.
Right, yes. Yeah, well, Richard is a very
nice
man and priest, yes.
Yeah.
So I suppose, yes, the church has been a big part. Rotary's been...
I was going to say that. I was going to ask that.
From our Mendip Rotary Club, we've given us some money from time to time to Somewhere House, which is... And it's the sort of things we like to do. Over the years, it has got me involved in, personally, I'm not trying to boast or anything, but it has got me involved with a number of charities and helping a number of charities. I'll just go back just a second. One of the things I think, I don't know why, but I think that motivated me in life to get involved in it is that when I researched my original background, I discovered that I knew at the age of 14, I was told I was being adopted. But when my adopted parents had died, I thought I'll do a bit of investigation, as we all do, and discovered that I'd been born in a workhouse. And I can only imagine what condition my mother must have been in wartime in a workhouse. And therefore, you sort of makes you think you do want to try and do a little bit sometimes for people who are a lot less fortunate than you are. And Rotary has been a fantastic vehicle. The thing I like about Rotary is if somebody's got a wish to help this charity or that charity, then other members get behind them and try to do just that. So you can help others achieve their ambition as well as sometimes doing the things that you would like to be done. Drew me, it just so happened, I'm a bit of a forward planner, and I decided when I was coming up to retirement, I was anxious not to fall off a cliff at the age of 60, but to have something else to do. And it was coming up to being district governor for Rotary International, covering this part of the country, going up to Leicester and covering Bristol and all the big towns around Gloucester, etc. So I got involved in that, and almost at the end of my period as district governor, we had the tsunami.
Yes.
And we decided right on the spur of the moment we heard about it to go out on the streets of wherever there was a Rotary Club, to go out to the streets one weekend and collect money to help in that work. Yeah. And it raised £500,000 in 2 days collecting on the streets, which then we had a problem to think, what on earth do you do with £500,000? You can just send it off into one of the central funds and you haven't a clue what happens to it. So we thought, well, what we could do was actually look for projects ourselves. And so we came across two people we thought we could trust. It's not always easy, even when you've got charitable organisations, finding people you can trust. And one was in Southeast India, and within 3 months, all their boats had been destroyed, and we got 60 boats, one sponsored by every club, back in the water so they could start fishing once again. Then built 200 houses, rebuilt 200 houses back. After that, this was after that, back from the water's edge where the previous houses had been. Built a school, put in water wells, etc., all within the space of about 18 months, 2 years, with the help of Rotarians in another country. So my job was basically making sure the money was spent where it was meant to be spent. I wasn't out there doing the work, but enabling others to do the work and check it was being done and properly accounted for. And the other one I got more involved with was we had a Methodist minister in this area. I can never remember his surname, but it was a Reverend Sam. And he was from Sri Lanka, and the Tamil area in Sri Lanka. And so I got much more involved with running a project on very similar lines in Sri Lanka. And that was absolutely fascinating because it was the first time in my life I'd actually gone somewhere where I felt very uncomfortable living because the standards weren't quite what I was used to. And the kitchen was beyond belief. Hygiene, yes. And so got involved, and that was very interesting. But mention them because I can. The Avis family who run the dairy, up on the A38, they gave a tractor.
Did they? Wow. They're a very nice family. They are lovely.
Which we shipped out and it was promptly impounded on the docks because they think it was designed for going to a Tamil area and there was no way they were going to let it through. But fortunately, the then Prime Minister of Sri Lanka was a Rotarian.
Oh, wow.
And through contacts,
he
said, release it, and release it was. And then when we got over the other side, first thing we did was make a bakery and built a community building, etc., they did fantastically well, and set up a whole series of microloan systems so people could start up in business on their own, which worked exceptionally well. But cultural things come into it again. We found that we trained all the young ladies to do batik work or do sewing, make dresses, etc., only to find that half of them, their parents, were the father in particular said, no, you're not going to work. Your job is to look after me.
Oh, I see.
So you can't work.
Yeah.
And we put the effort into training them, which was very frustrating.
Yeah, of course.
And we started a bakery and got a lorry for the bakery. And the army came along and said, well, we'll have the lorry. So once again, it was back to
yeah, that's the problem with, I guess, those kinds of
things. Those things come in the way. So
they do.
That was interesting. And so that took a couple of years. And it was just amazing how much you could do with very little.
Yes.
We think is very little money.
Well, and it is very little money, really, when you consider the amount of things that you were able to do over there. So, yeah, fantastic.
It does bring into that analogy, doesn't it? Teach a man to fish and you'll feed him for life. Give him a boat, he can feed himself. If he hasn't got a boat, he can't feed himself, can he? Do you know what I'm saying? They can't go out there and fish. And it's
once again, though, you see, it sounded simple to us, but then they said, is it safe to eat the fish coming out of the sea? Because that's where all our bodies have gone.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
And we hadn't thought about that.
No, I didn't think about that
until you said it.
They overcame, we got over the problem, but for a while they were all delighted with the boats.
Yeah.
But then other people who were having to eat the fish thought, yeah. So you come across all these little things,
How did they get over that? How did they move on from that? Because that's quite a tough one.
Something about need. If they didn't have that to eat, what did they have to eat?
Yeah. No, that's very true.
So they were actually being practical and saying, well, this is what we'll have to do. So they did. Anyway, that was so. Then you sort of move on. I mean, I did a big project in multiple sclerosis in Bristol, but Rotary's subsequently, it enables you to help lots of little organisations and individuals around the area. I mean, one of our members who was a nation, Bangladeshi actually, entrepreneur, used to run restaurants in Cheddar. He decided that he'd make curries every week to hand out to the people working in the National Health Service when they came home after COVID and working long hours. And members of the club then distributed the food he'd cooked to people who worked in the NHS.
That is nice.
So that's how somebody can use their personal gifts or whatever to help other people. And that's what we try to do in Rotary. I mean, sadly, at present, we've got one of our members has got motor neuron disease, and that's this week, tonight, we've got a speaker from the Motor Neuron Disease Society coming to talk about what the work they do and the work they're trying to do for people with that horrible illness.
How do people join it? I mean, I know that sounds silly, but how do people become part of it?
We've tried all sorts of things. The trouble is nowadays people don't join as we'd like them to join Rotary. It's changed a lot since I first joined when it was strictly men. Yep. Now what we're looking for are lady members as well as male members who just want to put something back into the and we're open to anybody just turning up at one of our meetings, which are advertised in the Isle of Wedmore News, for instance, and just coming along. Then men are noticeably bad at it. It comes through personal connections, like me saying to you, why don't you come along to the Rotary meeting tonight when we're listening about MND? Asking that question. Ladies ask those questions much more effectively than men. Presently, you see, we've just got one lady member.
Really?
And she's in her 40s. And then, so we range in age from a couple of men who are in their 40s, 50s, then the bulk are in their 60s, and then they've got real geriatrics like myself who are losing their energy fast, I'm sure. So we've got a wide range of membership, but they all have that common theme that they want to help the local. So we're helping at present where we've offered to put in, well, it's going to be been taken up, £5,000 to put in irrigation in Wedmore Farm. Because last year they had a dreadful time. Water costs a lot. And so we're putting in facilities to water harvesting, if you like, and saving the water in big tanks, and then being able to irrigate all the area around from those tanks. And we see that being very valuable in the community. It's a sort of area, that in particular, where I think people who, let's say, are on community service or something like that, it's a place where they can go in a controlled environment and do something useful for society.
Well, we have the people from the rehab go there and do voluntary work.
Yes,
there.
I know they do, yes.
And they love it. They absolutely love it. I don't think we've got anybody there at the moment, but the people that have been have really, really enjoyed doing it. And it's brilliant. It's a great thing to do.
Well, hopefully this water harvesting system that they are putting in, but we're paying for, will enable much more of that, because the ground will be more workable next year, hopefully, as a result of all of this. So it's that sort of thing, and people coming to ask and about what we do. We're very keen to tell them, but we do really need new members. As the old stock die off, then we need to refill.
We noticed that with, I went and did a talk for the Moose International, and they struggle to get members, new members. And it's a bit like me, I've always done stuff in the community, but I've never belonged to. I used to serve dinner to the Rotary Club in Cheddar when they were at the Bath Arms many years ago. That was a long, long time ago. But I've never been part of Rotary, and I've never thought I'd got the time to commit. It's like I do lots of other stuff. So it's like, how much time do people have to commit to become part of it?
Basically, as much as it varies very considerably from individual to individual. Yeah. We just ask people to give what time that they can. Yeah. It used to be in the old days, you had to attend every meeting or 70% of the meetings. Now we say,
come when you come.
Come when you can. When we're running a project or raising money somewhere, then it'd be great if you can turn up on that Saturday morning or wherever. But it's giving what time you can and using what skills you happen to possess. Yeah. Because we don't all have the same skills. There's a wide variety of jobs that people have had within the Rotary Club. So the expectations are not as high as they used to be. It's doing what you can. And using that using yourself as an influencer on what charitable work the organisation might undertake if others support it.
And I think the thing is, it's a great way for people who are lonely as well to meet other people and become involved in their local community. Because there's so many people out there that go, oh, I'm a bit fed up, I'm at home on my own and stuff like that. And it's like, go and help somebody, go and give back.
That is actually very, very sound advice, because you get more out than you put in.
Absolutely.
Which is the old story.
That's right.
I mean, one of the things we do in the church, of course, you probably know, we've got this little group for elderly people to go along, the tea set we call them, and they go along on a Friday once a month. And it's good to see 20 people who are there basically because they need the companionship, and they can go along without any threat in a safe environment in the church and just have afternoon tea and occasionally a lunch there.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing is so valuable to individuals.
And I think if people look deeply in any of their communities, they're there. They are there. Those community groups are there. I mean, I've talked to so many local community groups I didn't even know existed. And they'll go, oh, Ange, can you come along? Yeah, sure, I'll come along. I'll talk to anybody, I don't mind. But it's really, really interesting that there's these, like this group because they're twinning with that group, and that group because they're the ladies, because they joined because they all had little problems, and then they set up this other group. And then there's the really old people's group over there, and then there's the young people over here. And it's amazing what is out there, but it's just knowing what's out there. Really.
Yeah, and looking for them.
With the project we're just finishing, it's lasted a lot longer than we thought it would because COVID hit it. Was adopting a community in Uganda, and we've just finished doing that. And I put something in the Isle of Wedmore News, and before I knew it, a young lady called Lauren who lives in the village and works at one of the local pubs, said to me, "Well, I'm a fundraiser and for a charity in Kampala, which is exactly where you've been doing your projects."
No.
So in January, she's coming along. She's only I think she's in her 20s still, but she's young. And she's coming to talk to us about the work she does with her kids club organisation in Kampala. And that's one of, again, the great beauties of Rotary is it's worldwide. There are 1.2 million members worldwide. And you can make a lot of great connections and do things with other clubs to help. So,
well, it's joining your resources, isn't it? It's bringing it all together, and you're stronger when you're like that.
Absolutely.
Rather than doing things individually. I think individually it doesn't necessarily have the longevity that it does if you've got a group.
No, well, this Uganda project, see, we've got Western Supermare Rotary Club joined us, Burnham, Bridgewater Club particularly put a lot of money into it with us, and to get our 70,000 and grants for the Rotary Foundation, which is the biggest private charity in the world. So we got our £70,000, and it goes so far because there we've rebuilt a school, we've put latrines in, water harvesting, and set up medicamps, all done by the Rotarians out there. What we've done is just provided the administration and drawing the strings together.
Yeah.
And, that's, I've gone on a lot about Rotary, but as you
I think it's important.
As you gather, it's a large part of my life now.
But also I think it's important for people to know about it, and they don't unnecessarily know about it. By the way, I don't get the parish magazine anymore because our thingy is a dustbin by the front door, by the gate there, and nobody ever leaves us one now. So I must remind, I don't know who's delivering them now, but I didn't know about the Uganda project. So.
No, there we are. Yes. And that's just drawing to us, just winding up. There's a microloan system. I just come back to people. It's no good just pouring money at people. When we did the thing in Sri Lanka, and the same with this one, you can go out and build this and build that. And their comment to us was, you didn't just come in and put up a building and walk away from it. You help people to become self-sufficient and look after themselves. And that's the real secret of whatever charitable work you do. Get people to help themselves. I think that applies in all walks of life. And what you said just now is, you may not think you've got a lot to give, but it may just be that you can do one little thing that can help somebody so much.
And I know for us, we've got volunteers just might make a cake. And I know that sounds crazy, but we do 4 coffee and chats a month. And sometimes just making a cake brings it along and it makes somebody feel comfortable. They can have a free bit of cake and a free bit of coffee, and they've just got somebody to talk to.
The other thing is, when it comes to a charity like yours, it's surprising where money can come from, because when I did the MS project, building a new multiple sclerosis therapy centre up in Bradley Stoke, I had to raise £2 million, which is an awful lot of money. And I got on quite well. I got a contract. Somebody wanted to enter a contract, but we were short of quite a lot of money. And so anyway, the little lady said to me, "This is so-and-so. You ought to go along and talk to him. His wife had multiple sclerosis and died, and he may give you something." So I went along thinking I might get £100 or whatever. Yeah. So he said, well, after we'd had a chat, he said, well, so how much do you need to build this building? So I said, oh, we still need £400,000 to complete phase 1, and then another £300,000 or £400,000 for phase 2. And he said, £300,000 or £400,000. He said, okay, then, right, I'll give you £400,000.
Wow.
That's phenomenal.
And
that's giving me goosebumps.
I imagine your jaw hit the floor.
I walked outside and literally my legs were shaking. I could not believe what had just happened.
Yeah.
And then I went back to him a little while later and he said, by the way, how much would it cost if you built the second phase now? I said, well, it'd be a lot cheaper. It'd be about £250,000. Oh, he said, I'll do that as well.
Wow, I've got goosebumps now.
I am literally covered in. Oh, that is so generous. But that's the value, isn't it? How he sees that value. It's his value in his life, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, like you, they make lots of cakes up at the Brightwell Centre in Bradley Stoke, and it's still going. And they've just had an appeal for £40,000, and they've got it, and they have to raise about $500,000 a year.
What does it feel like knowing that all of these projects that you've been involved with is part of your legacy as a person? And that does include your work in the church, your work in the bank, post office, blah, blah, blah. It's quite a significant legacy to leave behind.
I don't look at it as a legacy. It's just something that's been part of my life. I loved it, incidentally, the other day when I was talking to your young
Mandy
at the fair they had in church, and talking to the people there who obviously had their problems, which you'd help them to overcome, and their personalities came through there, and I imagine their personalities had changed quite dramatically over the period that they had been with you. And one of them, I don't remember their names, but one of them had a particularly cheeky face. And I thought to myself, I'm hoping you're the one, because your cheeky face has probably got you into trouble in the past. And I just hope that when you go back into the community, which she said she was doing in a few weeks' time, as it were, and I just hope that cheeky face doesn't get you involved with the wrong people once again. Because I do know that one of the problems, my grandson's a psychiatric nurse, and he said one of the problems is that people go into the psychiatric unit, in his case, young people, these are in their teens, but then they're better, and then they go back and mix with exactly the same people who they'd been with before, and the circle just goes round and round and round. And that, I imagine, must be one of the problems that you face with people.
It is. And one of the things that we do in the rehab is that we integrate people as much as possible, like doing the things at the church, like being part of the community. And they live in the actual community before they go back to where they came from. So they've got a different experience. And some people do relocate, not necessarily in our area, but they relocate so that they don't have to do that, because it's a known fact. But I'm in recovery myself and have been for nearly 40 years. And I had to stay in this area. My children were at school here and I was living here on my own with my children. So I know what it feels like to be exposed to that kind of environment again after you've worked out some form of recovery. But for me, actually, I didn't find it difficult because I just wanted to get well. And I think a lot of people just want to get well. They're done with what they were doing. And because very often it's a negative coping strategy. It's not necessarily that they want to go out and use drugs and drink a lot and various other bits and pieces. Generally, it's because they've experienced some form of trauma.
Yeah. I mean, what you do with Somewhere House, etc., you'll get your hands dirty, if I can put it that way. And I look at myself and say, I use the skills I've got in organisation, administration, but I haven't, apart from a few cases I can think of, but haven't got my hands dirty in that way. And I think back to that project in Sri Lanka where I had to get my hands dirty. I felt quite uncomfortable.
Yeah. But we need both, don't we?
We need each other. Once
Yeah.
again, it's combining skills.
Absolutely.
And gifts.
You know, and I think that's so important in the community, in any community, that you've got lots of different people that are doing different things and bringing those skills together. And I think it's so important.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I suppose one of the things, going back to my church life again, standing up and giving sermons is one thing, but taking funerals again is one of the more difficult ones, because it's not taking the service, it's all the preparation and talking to the individuals concerned. And I haven't had the very difficult ones like Richard would have, but I've had a few where the background has been rather difficult and unusual. A mother who dropped dead on Boxing Day with 2 young children. That was when we had no vicar here. That was challenging, and all you can do is let them talk and listen. And listening is so important in that situation, and encourage them to share. So that aspect is, what a vicar does is very important and often undervalued by society in general, who just think they can't turn up, take a service, say the same old words, but it's what happens before and after that really matters.
But isn't that the same preparation for getting married? And, because I remember when myself and Dave got married, I'd been married before, and no other church would have taken us at that point because we'd been married for quite a while. And it was a chap at Shipham, and it was Julian, and he did Shipham and Axbridge, I believe, at the same time. And I remember going to his house, and he said, and he talked about why I got divorced, what the circumstances were, and everything else like that. And he was really interested in what my commitment was, for obvious reasons. Yeah. You're not going to get married in church again. I'd already been married in church once. Yeah. I was going to get married in church again. That was really important to me. To somebody who's, you're going to run out the door and get, end this one and start another one again. And he was really, and I found that really valuable. I think it made me respect the church again, even more so, because you had to take those vows that you've taken in a serious way. And it's not just, and I've never seen marriage as an unserious thing. I feel quite strongly about you get married for life. I didn't choose to get divorced the first time. But I love the fact that the church do that. When my kids got married in church, the same happened to them. They had to have lessons, and they went and talked about it. And I think it's really important to see the marriage as something that's really, really important.
That is an important aspect of getting married in church as opposed to getting married in a registry office, because particularly when it comes to a second marriage, but you are made really to address how committed you are to this new relationship.
Yeah, completely. And yesterday we went to the Wedmore candlelight, whatever it's called.
Lamplight, yes.
And we went to that, and we stood outside the estate agent looking at houses. We're not looking. Dave looks at houses anyway. They're on the market. He wants to know what they're going for, and he's just interested. And I stand there like a dutiful wife. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's only got 3 bedrooms or whatever. Anyway, there was a chap that was stood next to us, and I said, I don't know why he's looking, because we're certainly not moving. We're here for life where we are. And he said, well, it's funny. He said, I'm looking. He said, but I don't know if I can afford it, because I don't know if I'm going to be with my wife in a month's time. And it just hit me. And he was a youngish guy. He wasn't near my age. He was, a lot younger than I was. And I thought, whoa. And he said, and if we get divorced, I'm only going to be able to afford a 2 up, 2 down somewhere. And I just looked at, it's that bigger picture, isn't it? It's not just about finances, don't get me wrong, but it's the impact that the ending of a relationship has to somebody. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
We've seen it 3 times with one of our children, so yes.
Have you?
Yeah, yes. The others have seen what's happened to him and haven't got married.
Yeah. No,
yes, one of them has, at the age of 55. Struck me as a good idea. His first and only marriage, and his wife, his first and only marriage, he was 54, she was 55.
Wow.
And they had no, I'll use the old-fashioned word, baggage.
Yeah.
Just going at it for the first time, and appears to be very successful.
Good.
Yes, they're in Dublin, yes.
My friend got married, Mike knows who I'm talking about, got married a couple of years ago, and she was in her 70s. first time married. And
Really?
he was in his 60s, first time married. And it was, nobody knew. There was only myself and Dave that knew that we were going to get married. And we went along to the service together. Not, they didn't get married in church, but they went along to the service together. And it's like, and they didn't tell anybody for a long time. Most people know now, but they didn't at the time. And it was like, yeah, you do it when you're ready to do it, don't you?
Yes, yeah. There's hope for my daughter yet. Then, sorry, but you didn't hear that, Claire.
She didn't hear Claire. I'm sorry.
No, because we've got our diamond wedding next year. So
Oh wow!
Oh,
How
no.
long is that?
60, absolutely, yes.
Good for you guys.
Very tolerant wife, probably.
Well, on that positive note, shall we bring this to an end?
Okay, that's nice.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so much.
coming on. It's been really helpful and really,
Well, I hope it's been okay. You never know quite what to say when you're faced, but there we are.
This
Thank
is like
you.
one of your sermons. Trust me, it was good.
really good. Yeah,
Thank you.
we'd love to have
Thank
you
you.
back again soon. So yeah,
Okay.
thanks very much.
Thank you.